Sibal, is there really any getting back to where we were before a Friday after all that has happened and all the river that has flown down the Potomac since? India particularly is watching this very closely because we have close ties with the US, with Russia, with Ukraine and with the EU. And all of these developments at the end of the day in a globalized world have their own impact on a country such as India. Mr. Sibal.
Yes, of course. But we've gone through a very difficult phase. After Russia had this military operation in 2022. And that's when the global south was extremely worried about the consequences on the ground for them, whether it was oil prices or fertilizers or wheat shipments or whatever. And India played a major role in terms of reaching out to the global south, understanding the concerns, conveying them to President Putin. And in the G20, as you know, we played a very important role in making sure that the G20 didn't collapse as a group and that there could be some compromise over Ukraine. So we've gone through a very, very difficult phase already. So what is happening today is not as dramatic as it was when initially the situation began to go out of hand. Now, with Trump, the situation has changed drastically because he's reached out to Russia. Earlier on, the United States was not willing to talk to Russia at all. Now he's reached out to Russia. He thinks he can trust up to a certain extent Putin and can deal with him. He's been saying that repeatedly. He has said something which no other US president has said before, that NATO was a trigger for the situation that has happened in Ukraine, which means that the entire narrative that the whole situation was unprovoked has been rejected by President Trump. Furthermore, he has said that the issue is much larger. He wants to put the resolution of the Ukraine conflict within the larger framework of a progressive normalization of US-Russia relationship, which will then go into other areas, including disarmament and everything else, and mutual trade and lifting of sanctions and investments in Russia and everything else. So therefore, he says to begin with, he will talk to Russia, set the base for some common understanding, in which a situation the solution to the situation in Ukraine can be embedded.
Right.
Now you're saying no, we can't be left out. Ukraine says we cannot be left out. So there is a big difference in the strategy of the two countries, and I see some merit in what Trump is trying to do.
Certainly.
Of course, the Americans put it rather strongly, saying that you've had 3 years. He tells Europe, you've had 3 years to solve this, and therefore why do you want to be a part of the negotiations, etc., etc. And there is a bad blood between Trump and Zelenskyy. I mean, I can go into all that, and everybody on the panel knows what this is.
Absolutely.
And therefore, to my mind, Zelenskyy totally mishandled the situation. He should have known what the background was, and he should not have been argumentative. He could have said what he wanted to say, frankly, and behind, when they went in for talks behind the scenes, not in front of the press. But he started challenging Trump and Vance, and then they reacted.
Well, was the provocation from Zelensky's side, Trump's side? In fact, there are those who say that perhaps Zelenskyy should have offered President Trump the opportunity of building a Trump Tower there in Kyiv, and that would have changed things. But nevertheless, that apart, if I can